Good evening. I find it interesting that I'm leading the session on work-life balance because we had open house at Woodward today, 1,700 people on campus, and you should have seen me on 85 getting here on time, so the things we do for SAIS. But I'm very happy to introduce this session because many of you might remember that back in January of 2008, we lost a beloved colleague in the independent school world here in Atlanta. And for many of us, this was a shock that was met with angst and grief and wonder. And while no one ever knows what one is thinking when they make that decision that's going to end as tragically as this one did, there were many of us who wondered what, if anything, we could do in our independent school community to support each other's emotional and mental stability. And it was out of that concern that SAIS answered the call and gave us this venue to explore this whole issue of work-life balance. And for myself, I found myself looking at my life in 3 different areas. First, I realized that the problem wasn't when I was doing things, what I was doing things. The problem was when I was doing things. Our jobs never end. So if you are going to stay at work to answer that very last email or make that last phone call, you could stay there all night because there'll be another email and there'll be another phone call that you'll remember to make or another note that you remember to write. So I think that it's so important for us to say, my professional life, my work day is going to end at name your time, but then really, really let it end then. Because the work that we do will continue. When you go back to work the next day, there will always be things to do. And I had to intentionally make some changes to my personal life. I had to find time to relax. And so I will tell you that nothing, absolutely nothing, gets in the way of my massage time. It is sacred, it is on the calendar, and it doesn't get messed with. I also have found time to exercise, and most importantly, I have found time to unplug. When I became a head of school in 1990, back in the good old days, I had one device. I had a personal phone, which I don't even think we called them cell phones then. I think they were just called, I don't know what they were called. Mobile devices? I don't know. Now I have my personal cell phone. I have my work cell phone. I have my iPad. I have my laptop. I have a desktop in my office. I have a desktop at home. I have a desktop in the apartment that I live in on campus. So if you want to reach me, I'm very, very reachable. But I do find time to not have any of those things going off, silencing them, and finding some time to get in tune with myself. Secondly, I found it was painfully apparent to me that if I continued to say yes to everybody and everything, that everybody and everything would continue to ask me to do things. So I had to learn how to not continue to say yes. And I gave myself some limits. I do 1 accreditation a year because I love SAIS and I love that work. I will not sit on more than 4 boards, and I will not have more than 15 mentees. And when you come to something like this, and there are not a lot of young people here, but when I go to conferences where there are young people, they always, will you mentor me? Can I call you? Can I email you? And I said, yes, you can get 1 phone call and 1 email, but I've already got 15 mentees. I really can't mentor anyone else, so I've given myself limits. And then the other thing that I did for myself is around that same time, around 2008, 2009, I began to look at my own career. I had been a head of school by then for almost 2 decades. And I said, do I want to continue to do this job until I retire, or do I want to explore and see if there are other things that might be of interest to me? And so in 2012, I accepted the position as Vice President and Dean for Academic Affairs at Woodward Academy. And a lot of people looked at me like I had lost my mind. Like, how in the world could you go from being a head of school to being the number 2 person at a school? Well, it was really easy. I now am doing the things that I love. I'm reviewing academic curriculum. I'm growing teachers. I'm in charge of professional development. I'm in charge of evaluation. I hire and I fire. But when the tree falls on campus, I do not get that call. And while I am not advocating or even recommending that any of you as heads of school want to stop doing what you're doing, particularly if you are a head of school, but I do want to remind you that it is okay to make bold career moves that might change the trajectory of your journey. So, our jobs, we're not locked into them. We do have freedom of choice, and I think that if we continue to believe that and to explore that, then we'll be happier people. So now there'll be some folks who will come and wax much more eloquently than me, and they will come in this order: Josh Clark, head of school at the Skank School; Autumn Graves, head of school at Girls Preparatory School; Jeff Mitchell, head of school at Curry Ingram Academy; Kelly Waldron, head of school at St. Andrew's School; Arch McIntosh, head of school at Charlotte Latin; and Paula Gillespie, head of school at Oak Mountain. Thank you.